Diamonds hit the U.S. market in the 1940s with the slogan, "A diamond is forever." Today, they continue to be the ultimate show of affection when placed in an engagement ring or special piece of jewelry. In recent years, cheaper lab-grown diamonds and moissanite stones have tried to dethrone the precious gem. But so far, diamonds remain the favorite. A gem that's a universal sign of love, but also one that's become a currency of war starting in the 1990s. The precious stones were first seen being used to fund bloodshed in a series of civil wars in West African countries such as Sierra Leone. This created a whole new type of diamond that we now call blood diamonds.
The rebels in Sierra Leone were using diamonds to buy weapons. These were blood diamonds, and that was really the beginning of the campaign to do something about blood diamonds. Diamonds are very small. They have a very high value-to-weight ratio. They're easy to smuggle, so unless you really put tough regulations in place, they were ready-made for money laundering and gun running and sanctions busting.
That's Ian Smiley, a conflict diamonds expert, international development consultant, and author. He started his career just out of college in the Canadian Peace Corps. He was sent to teach high school in a region of Sierra Leone that was the epicenter for diamond mining. When the civil wars began years later, he suspected diamonds were being used to fund the war. Smiley then became part of a team under a Canadian NGO called Partnership Africa Canada. The team discovered that the rebels in Sierra Leone were stealing diamonds and using them to buy weapons.
The diamond industry at that time was very much unregulated. Nobody paid very much attention to where diamonds came from. But as the campaign gathered steam in the late 1990s, the diamond industry and a number of governments began to pay attention, and gradually there were negotiations, and something called the Kimberley Process certification scheme was established to basically keep tabs on and regulate the international trade in rough diamonds,
so that warlords couldn't get their hands on diamonds and use them to purchase weapons. Smiley helped create the Kimberley Process in 2003. The process aims to keep conflict diamonds out of the global supply. It defines conflict diamonds as rough diamonds used to finance wars against governments. Unfortunately, it seems the process has left Russia's attacks against Ukraine unchecked.
About a quarter of the world's diamonds are produced in Russia, mainly in the north, in Siberia and Yakutia. So, diamonds are a very important export for Russia. On average, annually, diamond exports are about $3 billion a year from Russia. It's not a lot of money in comparison with Russian oil exports and maybe some other things, but diamonds are very important to parts of the Russian economy, and Russian oligarchs have their finger in the pie. 90% of the Russian diamonds are controlled by a company called Alrosa. Alrosa is a publicly traded company, so if you wanted to buy shares in Alrosa, you could. But a third of it is owned by the Russian government.
Because of this association, Alrosa is essentially helping fund Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Even weeks after the invasion, Alrosa has continued to be a member of organizations such as the Responsible Jewelry Council, the leading standards authority in the global jewelry industry. But should Russia's diamond companies be punished for their government's actions? Well, the United Nations Guiding Principles on Businesses and Human Rights seems to think so. It says that businesses must try to prevent human rights violations that are directly linked to their corporation, even if the company itself isn't at fault. So the actions of the company's owners are the actions of the company. And even though the U.S. has recently placed sanctions on Russia's diamond companies, Smiley says they don't make much of an impact.
The White House has put sanctions on 13 Russian companies, including Alrosa, saying that they can't raise debt equity in the United States. Well, that's not a big deal. I mean, they don't need to raise money in the United States right now.
The United States Treasury called the sanctions against Alrosa and its CEO severe and unprecedented. However, the World Diamond Council says the sanctions haven't caused any issues for the business.
If you wanted to sanction Russian diamonds, you would have to start in Antwerp.
Antwerp is a city in Belgium that's globally recognized as the diamond capital of the world. The city has been a leader in the industry for more than 500 years, according to the Antwerp World Diamond Center. They also report that diamonds account for 15% of all Belgian exports. Smiley says 80% of the world's diamonds are traded each year in Antwerp. So for a global embargo on Russia's diamonds to work, Antwerp would need to restrict access to Alrosa.
Alrosa has 21 contracts through 2024 with companies that buy rough diamonds and then take them off to various places for cutting and polishing. So if you were to cut out Alrosa's access to Antwerp, that would be a start. And then you'd have to look at India. 70% of the world's diamonds or more by value are cut and polished in India.
He says Alrosa could bypass Antwerp and go to India directly, so India also needs to take a stand against Russia's diamonds. Since the country handles such a large volume of diamonds, Smiley says there's really no other place that could support all of Russia's gems. And because half of the world's diamonds are sold in America, Smiley thinks that the U.S. could influence India into not accepting Russian diamonds.
The cutting and polishing, because so much of it is done in India, the diamonds couldn't be sent elsewhere easily. I mean, China has a small facility, Thailand has a small facility for cutting and polishing. A little bit is done in Israel and a little bit is done in Belgium, but mostly it's India. So if you put your thumb on the choke points, India and Antwerp, and also I should mention Dubai. Dubai is a very important up-and-coming trading center for diamonds. So you'd have to put some pressure on Dubai to make sure that they didn't simply move the markets, move the trade over there. But you could do a lot of serious damage to the Russian diamond export business with a bit of pressure on 2 or 3 major choke points.
But what would that mean for the rest of the diamond industry? Diamonds are starting to rebound back to pre-pandemic levels, but cutting off Russia's contribution of 1/3 of the world's diamonds wouldn't help the industry's recovery plan.
It would be tough on Antwerp. You know, I have a lot of time and respect for the Antwerp diamond industry. They've changed their business practices and model over the last 20 years and become serious players in responsible diamond mining, trading, and manufacture. So it would be tough on Antwerp. It would probably raise the price of diamonds. I mean, diamonds have always been controlled. De Beers has controlled the supply of diamonds for more than 100 years.
Diamonds were scarce until the mid-1800s, when there was suddenly an inflow of the gems into the market. But De Beers managed to control the supply in order to keep up the illusion of a diamond's rarity. The company created a demand by marketing diamonds as the ultimate sign of love and the only acceptable stone for an engagement ring. And so a billion-dollar industry was born from a piece of carbon with the best PR team.
You have to remember, diamonds, gem-quality diamonds, don't have any purpose except decoration. I mean, they're for jewelry. They don't have any other purpose at all. Industrial diamonds are very cheap. There would be no shortage of industrial diamonds, plenty of other sources. But an embargo on Russian diamonds would certainly drive up the price of gem-quality diamonds. That would not be a bad thing for other countries that produce diamonds, particularly African countries.
Aside from Russia, diamonds are mostly found in Australia, Canada, South America, and Africa. Bain & Company reports the global diamond supply is still 20% below pre-COVID reports. That's 28 million fewer carats. It's hard to imagine the industry would want to risk a further drop in supply by cutting off Russia's contributions. But Smiley says the move is worth a potential loss in profits.
Well, I don't think anybody would want to cut their supply of anything that's coming from Russia, I mean, unless there's a good reason for it. I mean, we're very cautious about cutting supplies of petroleum products and gas and other things from Russia, but we're doing it. What we're trying to do is send a message to Vladimir Putin that he can't get away with what he's doing in Ukraine.
As of early March, the United Nations reports that more than 2 million refugees have already fled Ukraine since Russia first invaded on February 24th. Russia has bombed populated areas like Ukraine's capital Kiev, where the regional military administration writes that thousands of people were left in isolation without electricity, food, or water because of the attacks.
I think if you were to embargo Russian diamonds, you would send a very strong message, both an economic message and a political message, and not just to Russia, but to I think, to everybody who thinks about diamonds, because diamonds are symbols of beauty and love and foreverness and that sort of thing. For them to be coming from a country where the opposite is currently being practiced just doesn't seem to make any sense.
Alrosa stepped down from its place on the board of the Responsible Jewelry Council on March 3rd. The council says it's a temporary leave for the vice chair of the organization. You can purchase Smiley's books, Diamonds and Blood on the Stone, Greed, Corruption, and War on the Global Diamond Trade at your local bookstore. For more information about Ian Smiley and all of our guests, visit radiohealthjournal.org. Our writer-producer this week is Kristen Farah. I'm Reed Pence. Coming up next week on Radio Health Journal.
It's just like if you supply a 12-year-old with alcohol and then give them your car keys. You're going to be responsible for what happens.
Who's responsible for a mass shooting?
Then speeding is the main cause of fatal crashes. So why don't we slow down?
People are dying every single day on our roadways because we are all collectively being selfish.
All that and more on Radio Health Journal.
I'm Nancy Benson, host of Radio Health Journal. If you enjoy listening to Radio Health Journal, you'll also like our sister show, Viewpoints, which covers a wide array of topics from education to history to the environment. Here's a preview of what they're covering this week on Viewpoints.
Imagine if these satellites that are now monitoring and trying to see where people are trying to flee for their lives and help them out and these sorts of things. Imagine if a piece of debris just hit a couple of these. It's game over.
The growing issue of space junk. Then,
lots of programs in schools, they take kids to see a concert once a year. Now, they should be going once a month.
The importance of exposing more ears to classical music. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth this week on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
Listen to Viewpoints on your favorite radio station and subscribe and listen to shows anytime on Apple Podcasts and Google Play.
And that's Radio Health Journal for this week. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more. And check Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify for a library of past programs. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and information about our guests at radiohealthjournal.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Radio Health Journal.